Today, you are at the panel discussion that's discussing profiting from cultural programs and retention of intellectual property. This session will seek to dive into the intersection of culture, intellectual property, and equitable wealth creation, and also discuss how communities can retain and profit from what they create. At this time, I'd like to introduce our distinct panelists. First, we have Lexi Robinson. Oh, sorry, Lexi is not participating this afternoon. I apologize about that. To my left, we have Jose Camilo Córdoba. Jose is experienced in banking, education, and social development. He currently serves as manager of the Banco de la República in Quibdó and has led initiatives in cultural promotion, infrastructure, investment, and academic improvement in the Choco region. With a master's degree in Latin American studies from Newcastle University in the UK, he has worked in policy, entrepreneurship, and mentorship supporting young talents through various initiatives. His interests include economic development, business, environment, leadership, and community development. Let's welcome Jose. And to the left of Jose, we have Kayleigh Bryant-Greenwell. I'm sure you get that a lot, right? So Kayleigh Bryant-Greenwell is a native of Washington, D.C., with over 14 years of experience in museums, higher education, and nonprofit art spaces where she has utilized social justice practices to enhance audience engagement. Before joining Aspen Institute in 2023 as Senior Program Manager of the Arts Program, she served as the Associate Director of Outreach and Operations with the Anti-Racist Research and Policy Center at American University. She launched the center's new branding, including social media campaigns and issues-focused toolkits for non-academics and development strategies, and architecture for new community-based projects. Prior to that role, she served as the inaugural community engagement specialist with the Smithsonian American Art Museum and created new opportunities to sustain through partnership and shared authority with BI BIPOC? What is that?
Sorry, that's a museum term probably. Black, Indigenous, people of color.
Okay. As head of public programs with SAM, she led an extensive portfolio of programs across 2 museums and led new outreach and inclusion initiatives towards developing new audiences and cultivating meaningful public engagement. She has built and launched numerous new programming initiatives with the Smithsonian's and Acacia Community Museum, Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, and the National Museum of Women in the Arts, among others. Let's welcome Kayleigh. And my name is Bernie Lawrence Watkins. I am the founder and CEO of a law firm in Georgia called B. Lawrence Watkins and Associates. I've been practicing as a transactional attorney for over 25 years, specializing in entertainment and intellectual property. I'm also the CEO of a music technology, music distribution company, and I just love working in this space with creative people. I'm looking forward to this discussion this afternoon. We've been meeting for the past 2 days, and we've had, I would say, a very engaging discussion. And first, what I'd like to do is start out by talking about what are the biggest challenges communities face in protecting their cultural heritage from exploitation.
Hi, I'm Kayleigh. The question about preserving cultural heritage, and we're really taking a communities centered lens here. The overarching question is extraction, right? We see it in museums, in art centers, in institutions. We see it across other institutions as well. I'm sure we can talk about banking strategies. So extraction is the practice where creatives and communities are living their life, producing their art, producing their culture, and these partnerships come in, and rather than leave something behind or elevate or amplify or raise all the ships at the port, they're coming in and taking and to their own benefit. So I think that's where we're focusing our conversation. Do you want to add to that?
Yes, I believe many Black communities face a lot of challenges, um, particularly in this cultural topic. Um, Black communities face challenges in um, historical inequalities, struggle with lack of access to opportunities, lack of access to funding, lack of access to legal protections and commercializations, um, and commercialization of their culture without compensation. I believe this is one of those um, challenges we as a community face. Also, that's strategies for balancing commercialization and cultural preservation is another challenge. And last, I believe the difficulties to access to ethical partnerships. I believe those are the three big challenges, in my opinion.
Over the years, I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of music artists, and I've done a lot of deals, and I've represented African Americans, and I've also represented people who are non-African Americans, and I was able to see firsthand the type of deals that were being offered to different races. I'll just say that. And what I saw was that our people, unfortunately, work very hard, but oftentimes are not offered the same types of deals. I wanted to present some numbers to you, and you can determine whether this is considered Black exploitation. According to the Recording Industry Association of America and Billboard Magazine, in 2023, they cited some statistics that I'd like to share. In the hip hop and R&B genre, for example, it earned $10.3 billion. Rock music earned $7.8 billion. Pop music earned $5.6 billion. Country, $3.1 billion. Electronic dance music, $1.2 billion. Jazz, blues, $800 million. So as you can see, hip hop and R&B generates a lot of revenue. The music industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, not a multi-million-dollar, but a multi-billion-dollar industry. And unfortunately, African Americans they profit the least. When it comes to wealth in the music industry, record labels and executives, they're paid out 60% of the revenue. White artists, 25% of the revenue. Black artists, 12%, and other minority artists, 3%. So that alone lets you know that there's a wealth gap there. And partly because of the deals that are being offered. The deals are not in favor of African Americans, and partly because they do not read the agreements. And they're interested in becoming famous. They want to be popular, but they have the lack of knowledge and understanding of how to move forward. And I hope this discussion today, we can give you more insight as to what we need to do as a people to help move our community forward. In terms of strategies for equitable wealth, what would you say based on, well, let's roll back a little bit. Kayleigh, I know you've worked in museums, and I wanted you to talk about what that experience was like. Just give the audience some insight as to artists when you're representing an artist at a museum. Let's talk about those type of deals, because I know museums make a lot of money off of artists, but the question is, are the artists truly profiting?
That's a good place to start, understanding the inner workings of museums. Sure, we're all familiar with museums and visit museums and enjoy our experiences. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. The work that I was doing primarily throughout my career, largely at the Smithsonian, was work around shared authority and changing the access and working to take down the barriers of that access from community to the museum. Earlier in museums, maybe like the decade before I was in college, the model, the understanding was the museum benefits the community. Therefore, the museum tells the community what it's interested in and what it needs. And we're at a place now that we understand that that's a broken model, and that that is it's not really an assets-based mindset. And so the work that I was doing in museums was to bring community into our spaces and kind of tell the museum what's what. You're not the only experts in the room. And I did a lot of that work with artists. So at the Smithsonian, this is going to get a little esoteric for a second. At the Smithsonian, to get paid as an artist, as a creative, and I use the term artist very expansively. I'm talking about musicians. We worked with a lot of different like bands and dance companies. So artist is a blanket term, but creative. To work with the Smithsonian and get paid for that work, you have to go through this process called the DUNS paperwork. It's esoteric. I won't get into the detail, but it's prohibitive. It's hundreds of pages of online paperwork, multiple levels of verifying your identity, putting your tax information on hundreds of different pages. It is a barrier to access itself, and you can't get paid from such an organization without it. And so the work that I did was to try to minimize some of those barriers, provide education services to this is how we can get you through the system. We want to work with you. So things that simple as that are barriers to access that I don't think that we think about. Just the plain bureaucracy of it all. But then when you're signing a contract with a museum, how do you know you're getting a fair wage? Were you negotiated down? Were you haggled? Were you told this is the budget and this is what we'll pay you? Did you have the opportunity to say, well, these are my artist fees and this is what I expect as compensation for my work? That I think is where a lot of museums could do a lot better. There's an organization called WAGE. It stands for Working Artists and the Greater Economy. I had to write it down because I don't remember what acronyms stand for. They have this great website where they provide a lot of education opportunities for artists, and these calculators really to determine what a fair wage is. And they've done a lot to sort of reset and restructure compensation expectations for artists working at major institutions that may try to negotiate that compensation.
So, Jose, with your background, talk about what you've seen trying to educate artists or cultural programs, people who run cultural programs, and the challenges that you've experienced on the financial side.
I work for a bank. You know, this is the Central Bank of Colombia. And for many of you, you know, what is a bank doing in cultural affairs? But for the Banco de la República, Central Bank of Colombia, the cultural division of the culture is very important factor, a very important part of its mission. So in places like Quibdó, where I come from, the Banco de la República is the only cultural center that we have. And every day, a lot of people came to my office for, you know, asking for support for projects, for, you know, funding, as you mentioned, and, you know, access to funding for creators, for creative people, is one of the main challenges. So, you know, I'm new in the cultural world, but one of the things that I've been like trying to do, and I've been trying to encourage the cultural ecosystem in Quibdó, is trying to forge alliances and partnerships where all of us, or all of the parts involved, can only add something, but also, you know, all of them can benefit from the results. For example, there is an initiative that some people came to my office, and we started to create. It's called Ilustrando al Pacífico, which is a training program, and I like to call it like that. It's a training program for young local artists. And in Ilustrando al Pacífico, we give them like skills, toolkits, in order for them to improve their capabilities and their abilities to create. But something that in the evaluation of the implementation we did the last year was, you know, what is lacking? What is lacking is for those young people, young artists in Choco, in Quibdó, in the Pacific region, is they don't have access to, you know, business training. They don't they don't know how to value their own art. They don't know how to do networking. So many of the one of those things that we are trying to uh, I don't like to use the word teaching, but to provide to provide them is with toolkits for them to be business oriented, be people who can to that they can know how to negotiate, how to present themselves, how to create a portfolio, and those kind of skills and toolkits that many black artists, especially in Colombia, don't have access to, because the art world, the music industry, the culture world is very elitist. So if you are not part of certain elites, you don't have access to resources, to funding, and many things that people in the margins, like people in Choco, don't have access to.
So you spoke a lot about business and teaching artists or creatives about how to hone in on their skills, learn about the industry. Kayleigh, I'd like for you to talk about how artists work as a business.
So something we might not think about as consumers of textiles, all of the wonderful art that's being exhibited and sold downstairs. Every successful artist that you come across is a business. Now, when we really think about that, if we think about an artist that may have taken an academic route to their artistry, a BFA followed by an MFA, there is no MBA in that process. And yet, to be a successful artist, you have to be a business. Not necessarily having that training, and that is where extractive and predatory practices can really take advantage of artists. Not having the training of contract negotiation, even simple things as branding, being able to build your own website to sell your products. All of these things are not necessarily built in to the artist or the creative's playbook, and yet those skills are absolutely necessary to be successful. Sorry, am I getting away from the question? Okay, we'll leave it there.
So just to piggyback on that, I will address how intellectual property laws help communities retain control over their cultural assets. So Kayleigh was talking about artists being businesses. So it's important that when you are creating something, you understand the true essence of building a foundation, and that means starting out with the incorporation of your company as either an LLC or incorporation, or well, there are other aspects of businesses as well, but for legal protection to prevent you from liability and also to benefit from taxes, you want to have a corporate structure that's outside of operating as an individual. But in addition to that, you have the issues surrounding copyright and trademark, which are essential. And I think that is truly where creatives lose out. They don't understand what it means to secure their intellectual property rights. Now, when it comes to copyright per se, a copyright The technical definition of a copyright is it's a creative work of authorship that's placed in a tangible medium of expression. So the moment that there's a creative expression that's captured, you have an intellectual property right as it relates to copyright. So what do I mean by that? If something is recorded in the form of audio or in the form of a video, you have a copyright. So if it's music, or if it's a speech, or if it's a dance that was choreographed, you have an actual copyright. You don't necessarily have to register the copyright with the Copyright Office to have a copyright, but the purpose of registering your copyright is in the event if someone infringes upon your work, you then have prima facie evidence to present to the court with the certificate to show that your copyright existed on a particular date. Without that piece of paper, you cannot step into federal court, because federal court is the governing body of copyright. Now, with the trademark, a trademark is basically a distinctive mark that's used to identify a product or service. So when you have a business and you form your company and you incorporate and you have an LLC, what I find is a lot of companies, they stop there. They don't understand that there's a next step, which is to register the trademark, because that's how you protect your brand rights, your mark. You prevent someone from misusing your name. And if you are a business, you have a service that you are offering to your customers, or if you're selling a product, okay, you need to trademark that name as well. Because say, for example, you're using it on social media, and I've seen this happen quite sometimes, and you contact Instagram or Facebook and you try to shut down someone who was misusing your company name or misrepresenting, they're going to ask you, do you have a trademark registration? And if you don't, you're going to have challenges removing that page. So it's important for you to take those steps ahead of time and be proactive when you're thinking about how you're moving forward as a business. And this applies to any form of business. When you have a trademark, you're also establishing brand rights, as Kayleigh was talking about. Name, image, and likeness with the use of social media and the internet and technology has become very, very important today. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually trademark a name. There's a lot of things you can trademark, and it's important that if you're looking to become business owners or work with creative people in the arts, that you're able to help them in some capacity to understand what it means to operate in this space. So the copyright and the trademark, in terms of protecting the name, image, and likeness, goes a long way, because if you're not utilizing both aspects as it relates to intellectual property, you're losing value.